Hello, everyone, and welcome to Unique Peace. I am Janice. I'm a Reiki Master Teacher and Psychic Medium here on Long Island. I am your host today, and today I have the wonderfully talented Cindy Kaza with me. She is an artist and psychic medium, best known for her work on the Dead Files, the Holzer Files, Ghosts of Devils, Perch. She's also trained at the world-renowned author Finlay College in England, and she has been at Lilydale. She also has a passion project called Unseen, and we are going to talk about all the wonderful things that Cindy is up to these days. Everyone, welcome Cindy Kaza.
Hello.
How are you?
I'm doing well, thank you. How are you?
Good, good. So I came across you when I saw on YouTube the promos for Unseen. And
Oh,
a
okay.
little bit of digging. And I used to watch the Dead Files back in the day. And I think it was before you were on, but it's nice to see that it is still on because I was fascinated like that. Like I like true crime and psychic medium stuff. It's a lot.
Yeah, totally. Yeah, that's interesting. Yeah, because Unseen. So thank you for bringing that up. It's been a passion project of mine. And so that trailer, I put it out there, and I got a lot of like really good response from that because I think losing a loved one is something we're all going to experience in life. That's part of life. And it really losing my brother. So for those of you who are watching, Unseen is a passion project of mine that really, it explores how different cultures sit with death, death rituals. How do they experience the afterlife? What are their views on that? And I've been working professionally as a psychic medium since I think like 2008. So I lost my brother in 2022. And it really, my brother's loss showed me how much I don't know, which is so great. It's great. It's like, what a great teacher, because it turned everything kind of on its head for me, in relation to what I thought that I knew about how I would connect with him after he passed away. Because I think we assume as mediums that we're just going to be able to connect with everyone. And we can't, not with everyone, but you know what I mean? But at least like our close loved ones, my brother was like my closest family members. We were like, twin souls in some ways, and he died and I didn't feel him. And I still really haven't felt him much for almost 3 years. So why is that?
And I can understand that. I mean, I have a dear friend, like I lost my father at a very young age. So it was like, I didn't know if I was connecting with him. But I have a very good friend. She's very in tune as well. And she lost her mother about 5 years ago. And she's like, how come she's her brother. And she's like, how come mom comes to you and not me?
Right.
He's like, she comes to you. You just don't feel her like I do.
Yeah. And that's right. And it's interesting because what you're saying to me right now is what I would say to clients, what I would say in a Q&A when I was on stage. I do a lot of live events. And I would say exactly those words, like with confidence. But then when it came around to me, I wasn't so confident. And I was like, oh, wow. It's like, do as I say, not as I do. Or I was put in a different position. And I'm so grateful for that because my brother's death really taught me about the depths of grief. I didn't know that I could grieve that intensely. I mean, I in theory, I knew that was possible, but to actually be in that sort of a deep grief changes everything. Grief is not linear, right? And all the different stages of anger, and then having, which is so funny, like, to think about this and talk about it is because, I have a lot of friends that are mediums, right? Obviously I'm a psychic medium, and my friends would come up to me and say like, oh, Chad, your brother came to me and said, I love you. He wanted me to tell you that he loves you. And I would get so mad because I was like, screw you. Why isn't he coming to me? But like these, right? Like these are like all
I totally understand.
Yeah. I was like, I know you're my friend, but please stop talking to me right now, And I don't get a free pass in this human suit just because I have a heightened sense of these energies, right? And that taught me that, like, no, I had to feel that pain and go through that in that way, because otherwise, how am I going to understand what it really feels like? And it really has forced me to rethink how I communicate with people in grief, because most of the time when people are grieving, the people around them want the grief to stop because it makes them uncomfortable. When the people grieving really just want somebody to sit with them in their grief and hold them and be like, it's okay that you're sad, instead of trying to make them stop being sad, right?
Right.
And even in mediumship, when we're connecting with people and we're bringing through messages, right? We have to remember that, like, the message and the connection, our purpose is not to quote unquote heal anybody. It's to be present in a moment and hopefully be present in a connection, and to hold somebody where they're at, to meet somebody where they're at in a moment. And sometimes meeting somebody where they're at means not giving them a reading.
Yes. And I don't know about you, but I have encountered people that they get very frustrated and get very angry when I flat out said, you're not ready, and they get very mad. But I have to honor that, because it's actually like a three-way map for me. I don't know how it works for you, but if spirit is telling me you're not ready, that means there's something that they want to share with you, but you're still in a grieving process, or you're still angry, and you're not going to get the message.
Well, and it's interesting too. It's like somebody, asked me, before my brother died, if I thought that grief could be a barrier to feeling the presence of a loved one. And I didn't like answering that question, because I always felt like if I said yes, then it would kind of shame the person in grief, make them feel bad for grieving, or make them want to not grieve anymore so they could feel their loved one. And so whatever the story was that I had attached to it, right? Because there is that element there. Like, if you say to somebody, your grief is keeping you blocked from the connection, and then the person goes into shame, like, I shouldn't be grieving. Or the story of, if you're sad, it keeps your loved one trapped. I mean, there's all these things that people say to people in grief, right? That can just actually just make it worse. And so I just, I'm always like super mindful of that. And then I realized, like, with my brother's death, like, my grief was so intense. And I would just be like driving in a car, and a memory would come in, and I would just start crying. Like, I couldn't even hold the memory, right? The memory was so intense. And then somebody sent me this audio recording of Daryl Anka channeling an entity called Bashar. Do you know who Daryl Anka is? Okay.
Yes, I like Bashar.
Yeah, right. So it was really interesting because Bashar, so for those of you who don't know, Daryl Anka channels an entity called Bashar. So he goes into a trance state, and people can ask Bashar, the entity, questions, and so on and so forth. Okay. So there was a woman in the audience, and I'm not going to quote this exactly, but it's, this is pretty close. But the woman in the audience had lost her son, and she was asking Bashar, like, how to get through the grief, or does grief block the connection, or whatever, right? It was all along the lines of what I was going through. And Bashar said something really interesting that has always, stuck with me. It's changed the way that I looked at things. Okay. So Bashar said that sometimes when we're in really deep grief, right, and the memory comes in, the memory, because we're so sad, becomes this pain. It becomes this way to anchor us into this loss, into the disconnection or the feeling of separation. And then Bashar said, maybe the memory is the visitation, but you're just not looking at it that way.
And that is exactly what I was going to ask. Do you feel you were visited? I think that was a visitation from your brother. That was an invitation to say, hey, remember that one time when we went to like the Adirondacks and we were goofing off at Lake George or whatever? And I was going to ask you if you thought that.
Yeah. So it took me to, hearing that from Bashar to be like, oh, wow. And so like now, if a memory comes in, I acknowledge it and say, oh, hey, Chad, instead of being like, oh my God, I miss my brother so much. This is so painful. I can't stop crying. So it like just that little bit of a tweak on the way that I'm looking at what these memories are actually trying to tell me. So that was helpful. Right. And It's been, I've said this, already, but my brother's death taught me grief, and I am so grateful that I'm learning through his death, because it has really forced me again to like really look at everything I'm doing through a different lens, truly, and with a whole lot more compassion, and to really, the more that I learn, really, the less that I know. I have no problem saying that I don't know something. I think that's so freeing to be like, you know what, I actually don't know. No big deal. I don't think any of us really know all that much about anything,
I agree.
We're having these experiences, right? Like, and we're able to bring through information about somebody's loved one, that how could we have known that, right? And it's also a co-creation between the medium, the person sitting across from the medium, and the spirit world. And it just keeps you humble. Like, it's really important.
It is very important.
Mm-hmm.
And in that, your passion project, it triggered me in a good way. I mean, triggers can be good and bad, as we know. This one triggered me because it piqued my interest. And on your travels and in your journeys through learning about grief from other cultures in your own space, what have you learned from other cultures that has really helped you heal a little bit every day through this process?
Whew, yeah, I mean, I still have so much more to learn and so many places to explore. So the trailer that you saw of Unseen, which for those of you who have not seen it, you can check it out on YouTube. You can check it out on my social media. Everything's at Cindy Kaza. So I went to Toraja, Indonesia. I have wanted to go to Toraja for, long before my brother passed away. I'd seen I don't know if it was National Geographic or some documentary about Toraja. So the Toraja people are an indigenous people to the island of Sulawesi, sorry. So basically, they believe that when somebody passes away, they're not actually dead until they have a funeral for that person. And the funerals are very expensive, elaborate. There's a lot of like different sacrifices, animal sacrifices that are happening. So it's the whole thing. It's just very, very expensive to have a funeral. So from what I was told, a funeral roughly costs, and this is on the very low end, $50,000 US. That's the low end. So the Toraja people spend most of their lives saving up for funerals, and I think funerals and weddings, but I think funerals, right? So they know that like most of their money is going to be going towards paying for a funeral of a loved one, for their own funerals, whatever. And please forgive me if I'm getting any of this wrong. Anybody that's watching this, I'm doing my best. Please forgive me. Okay. So when I went there, and I was lucky because I've been traveling to Indonesia back, on and off for about 10 years. I made some friends there, and the opportunity arose where I was invited to go to Toraja and film a funeral, and to also film, inside of people's homes. Because what happens is when somebody dies, oftentimes the family will keep the body of their loved one in the home until the funeral happens. And sometimes that can be years.
Oh, wow. Okay. Wow. That's a long time.
Yeah. So they'll bring food, they'll bring water to their ancestors who are in the home. They'll talk to them like they're still with them, because they believe that they haven't died yet. They're just sleeping or resting until the funeral happens. Okay. So that's interesting, right? Because
Amazing.
we in the West are very ill prepared for death. We are really ill prepared for death. We like to pretend we're not going to die. When people say, well, if I die one day, it's like, well, you're going to die one day. Yeah. Right? We listen to the way that we talk about death. It's always like we're trying to avoid it. It's not going to happen. It's something that it's just really crazy, right? It's like, but it's part of, this existence. And so it really taught me a lot about like walking with it differently, that, going into somebody's home where their sister had died 2 years before, and the body is there, and we're looking at the body, and we're talking about the sister, and the connection, and the grief is still there. There you could see, there's still grief there, but it's just a different experience. If you were to see a body in somebody's home in the United States, first of all, it's illegal to like keep a body there. but it's just so incredibly taboo, right? It is so taboo. And then the funeral happens, and then there's a ritual that happens every year called Manene. It's like around the harvest moon, where people exhume the bodies of their loved ones. They take them out of the coffin, dust them off, put new clothes on them, take pictures of them. It's like they're having a family reunion, right? Then put them back in and put them back in the ground. So when I was invited to go film this funerals are 5 days. What was happening was the family they were having the funeral for 2 people at the same time. I don't know why, other than I think it's more cost effective because funerals are so incredibly expensive. So they were having a funeral for a mother and a son. The mother had died, I think, 2 or 3 years before the son, and the son had died about 4 months prior to the funeral. Okay. So the family had built a mausoleum. A new mausoleum to put the mother and the son in, and the rest of the family that had gone before, up until that time. So what was happening is where the mausoleum was built on the land, it was built on the plot of the land where the other family members had been buried. So they were exhuming and digging up all of the bodies that were in the ground. And in that, they dug up the coffin of a woman who died 17 years ago, right? And so they took her, like I was saying, they take the bodies out, they dust them off, give them new clothes, which you saw in the trailer. I was like standing next to the body of a woman who had died 17 years ago. We're taking pictures with her, right? And so they were preparing her to put her into a new coffin, to put her into the mausoleum with the other family members and the mother and the son whose funerals we were attending. Make sense?
Yes.
Okay. I'm like,
everybody else is able to follow.
I know. I'm like, did I go on a tangent? I think I'm still on track. Okay. So the thing is, like, when you're seeing this happening as a Westerner, it's like, wow, this is wild. Like, wait, there's a body there. And now I'm taking a picture with it. And people are excited. Like, the family members are like taking selfies with the woman, the body, and like, it's like it's a reunion. It's a celebration, right? But the reverence that the Sharaja people have for their ancestors and the care that they give to their bodies is really, really beautiful. It's really like, wow, why are we so afraid of a dead body in the United States? Or why are we afraid to look at death? We are afraid to look at it. We like to pretend it's not going to happen.
Yes.
And by doing that, it creates a whole culture of this like fear, right? Like we're just afraid of all of it. And I think that there's a lot of room for growth in that, right? Because how we show up for people as they're in their end of life, that's important. And a lot of people are too afraid to show up for people as they're dying.
Yeah. And they're too afraid to let go. I have a very interesting story with my grandfather, who was in the beginning, like, he was like in the middle stages of Alzheimer's. It does run in our family. And my grandmother was with him, and he was in the hospital, and there was like this moment where he looked at her, and she was getting very upset. And anybody, if you understand Alzheimer's, they can get very frustrated very easily because their mind is disoriented. They're trying to be present, but they're 10 years behind everybody. They're like, it's not connecting. And he had a moment of clarity, and he was kind of upset, and he goes, "Let me go."
Mm-hmm.
And when my grandma's like, "You can go," that's when he left.
Yeah. And you know, even with like, so let me share this story. I have a good friend who lost her mother. I think it's 2 years ago now. And her mother was riddled with cancer, and it was just wild because the doctors were like, she should be going any minute now. And she just wasn't going. Like, she would like almost go and then come back and then have these like really deep words of wisdom to share with my friend. Like, it was like she went somewhere, but she just came back. Right. And it was really painful for my friend to watch, because it's like, and as you know, like when you're watching somebody at the end of life, and you're just like, it can be traumatizing when you're watching somebody with like struggling to breathe, or it looks like they're suffering, and there's all these things that we are witnessing. It's hard to witness sometimes, right? So it's like, the question is, well, when is this actually going to happen? When is this person going to go? And I learned a lot through talking to my friend when her mother was passing away, and just other people too, that they're working things out. They still, what it was not none of our business.
Nope.
Like they're, whatever they're sorting out, that's part of their karma. That's part of what they're doing, is in their time, you know, but it's about how can we just sit with people in that process and just hold the space for it. Like that's what I really want to start to understand, is like, because it is such an important thing to be able to do for somebody. You know, everybody's so excited when a baby comes in. Everybody's around. They're so excited. But like, what about when somebody's going out, right? I don't even like saying going out, transitioning, like energetically shifting. It's the cycle. It's like you take your first breath in and then you breathe the breath out. And it's like, we as a culture need to learn how to show up for people in a different way at the out breath.
At the exhale, for sure.
Mm-hmm.
Sure. And I love that. And I'm looking forward to seeing more of your passion project.
Thank you.
And I usually do this at the beginning of the show, but I felt it was very important that we have that conversation before diving into who is Cindy Kaza. And I apologize for saying your name wrong.
Oh, that's fine. It's fine. Seriously.
How did you learn who? And we're all learning. Right? We're still like, I'm still learning who I am. But how did you learn who you are? What's your story?
I don't know who I am. I'm like, who am I? That's like the biggest question on earth. When I meditate, it's the message is always like, you need to remember who you are. I'm like, I'm trying. Who am I? Right? It's like, because, and I'm going to get really petty and out there because that's just where I'm at right now. But it's like, you know, it's a good question to ask somebody, who are you? And I have to really sit with that and say, who am I really? Because a lot of the stories that we tell ourselves about who we are aren't even our own stories. They've been told to us by our ancestors, by society, by whatever, and so is that really who I am? Are the stories really who I am? And the stories are really easy to get attached to, you know? So today, I'll say today I'm a daughter. I'm here with my dad in Michigan. My dad is about his end of life, right? So that's who I am today. Yeah, I'm intuitive. I'm connected. I can feel different frequencies. How did I, discover that is part of who I am? It took me a long time, really. I mean, as a kid, I was really sensitive. I could sense things about people that I shouldn't have known. I saw spirits. It was really, really challenging. I'm also an empath, right? So you can feel everybody else's emotions, including your own, plus the spirit world. It's like, great, this is really, really challenging.
Yeah.
My first, I think, way to channel anything was through music. So as a really young kid, I was really good at music. I always used that as my outlet. It was like a way to open my throat chakra. It was a way to get energy out. I thought I was going to be a musician. That was what I thought was going to happen. And then, I stumbled upon psychic mediumship because I think for many years, and this is part of my story, from at age 15 to 23, I was trying to really drown out my sensitivity with alcohol. And that was part of my story. And I quit drinking at 23. Thank God. That's now I'm almost 22 years without alcohol. That's part of my story. But the thing is like I had to stop drowning it out in order to see what it was. And when I stopped drowning it out, I couldn't avoid it anymore. And I met a mentor. Then I started studying. And now here I am. Right? It's a really common thread in psychic mediums to have addiction issues, to try to drown things out in different ways, to avoid, because it's overwhelming. It's super overwhelming. And so that's also part of my story. And then for years, I studied at the Arthur Findlay College in Stansted, England, which is, I trained with the spiritualists. I'm not a spiritualist, but for those of you who don't know, spiritualism is an organized religion, and it's some of the best mediumship training in the world, in my opinion, for the Western world, right? It's very Western. And so I spent a lot of time studying with spiritualists in England, also in Lilydale. I love Lilydale. For those of you who don't know, it's a spiritualist community in upstate New York. I've been going there for many years. It's a very magical place. I'll be teaching there in July if anybody wants to come. But
that's awesome. Yeah. I know about Lilydale through my own mentors, and I want to go up at some point. So
yeah.
Do you know Willa?
Yeah, I know Willow White. Yeah.
Love Willa.
Yeah. So it's great. My first teacher, one of my first teachers from, I met at Lilydale. Her name was Sharon Klingler, and now we're working together this summer. I love her so much. So I've learned a whole lot from the spiritualists. I'm infinitely grateful for their teachings. And so then I, started, traveling, doing gallery events, which is a platform mediumship, is what we call it in spiritualism. Excuse me. And then that got me into paranormal television, which I never thought I was going to ever do paranormal television. It was like, not on my radar. Sorry, my allergies are so bad. It was not on the radar. It was like, it was not what I trained for. It's not something I ever really, I don't know. It's not something I was doing at the time. And then I got a call to be on Holzer Files, which, so on the Travel Channel. And the reason that I really wanted to do the show is because Hans Holzer, who is now, on the other side, was a really well respected paranormal investigator, but he also was a firm believer in the use of mediums in his investigations. And so because there was that little piece there, I was like, okay, this feels okay. And so then that's how paranormal TV started for me. But it was like much later, I was already 10 years into working as a medium at that time. So then did Holzer Files. I did one season of Dead Files because I just helped Amy out for a bit in that one season, and Ghost of Devil's Perch. And now I'm filming another show with Dave and Shane for, we were in Holzer Files together, called Paranormal Mysteries, which will be airing at the end of the year on Shane's streaming platform, Beacon TV. So that's happening. So I've been kind of doing all these different things, teaching a lot, traveling. And what's funny is I've been really getting into meditation and Buddhism more. And it's like, and so I sit and I think about all these things that I've done, that I'm doing. And then I just get to this place of everything is really just presence. It's like I'm always shifting. I'm like, my mind is constantly like, oh, do I really know anything? Nope, I don't. What's next? No, I really still don't know anything. But it's been so good for me, to be in that space, because one of my mentors from Arthur Findlay College, her name is Yose Goschalk. I'm probably saying her last name wrong. It's Dutch. Sorry. But she looked at me once, and it was so great. And it took me a long time to figure out what she was actually trying to say to me. Because as a student, I was really a perfectionist, and I was really hard on myself, and I wanted to be right, and it had to be right. And it was it just, what I mean? Ego, it's all the things, right? And she looked at me once, she goes, Cindy, don't be so sure of what you're sure of. And I was like,
sorry.
No, I was like, what? And I was like, oh my God, that was really deep. There's all these tidbits of and I carry that with me today all the time. When I think I'm so sure of something, I'm like, don't be so sure of what you're sure of. And that has been the greatest gift, to have somebody say that to me, because it's kept me very open to other cultures, other religions, other ways of thinking about the spirit world, right? Because the second that we think we know exactly what it is, we are closing ourselves off to lots of other stuff. And it's like, I feel really grateful. Thank you, USA, right? Really, because that really helped me out.
That I'm going to find a clip later, and I'm going to plaster that everywhere, because that's the best advice for everyone.
Yeah, get you curious, right? It's like, I hear so many people in this line of work that are like, well, this is what it is, and this is how it goes, and this is how. I'm like,
no,
that's actually a projection through your own psyche, through your own mind, through how you've been socialized, through your culture, through whatever, So I'm really hyper aware of that, and I check myself all the time.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Absolutely. I love that advice, and I totally understand it right away. It hits the spot right away. You were also an artist. So
yes.
Upon music, how did you gravitate to the artwork that you were doing? And it is all over your social media. It is beautiful. It is amazing. So how did you kind of get there?
Yeah. So art for me, that kind of art, drawing, painting. That came after I started doing automatic writing. It's an extension of automatic writing. So while I, can sing and I'm, musically inclined, I was never inclined that way as like to be able to like draw. That just wasn't, at least I didn't think so. Right.
Mm-hmm.
And so automatic writing, channeled writing started happening in around 2009. And then I had the intuition to pick up paint and just let it come out. And then that's how the art started. I took quite a long break from art. And then when I started doing TV, because I was drawing spirit guides, right? And then I was like, why don't I try this and just see? And I was really afraid because I was like, people aren't going to understand my art. It's weird. Nobody's going to get it. I was super insecure. And then I just, thank God, I just was like, whatever, who cares? I just like got over it, and then, yeah, so I've just gotten a little bit more in flow with that and just like surrendering to it because I never know what's going to come out in a piece. I don't see it and draw it. That's not my skill. I can't look at like a vase of flowers and draw it perfectly. That's not it. It's just comes out. And so I'm seeing it at the same time as everybody else is. Sometimes I'm creating a piece and I think it's one way and then I turn it upside down and I'm like, whoa, there's the face. Like, that's crazy. Where did that come from? So it's fun because for me, it's about being present because I notice the second I start to get distracted or I start to try to control it, it gets ruined.
Yep. I totally understand that. I was resistant to, because I write poetry.
Oh, cool.
And I was very resistant to automatic writing. And then one of my own mentors and teachers, she goes, just write lists. Just write whatever list comes out. And what I've noticed, now I can do the automatic writing, but what I noticed is that's how a lot of my thesis when I was in getting my master's in writing, that's a lot of how many of my poems in my thesis were written. They just came out.
Yeah. It's like music, poetry, method acting, art. It's like people are channeling constantly. They just aren't calling it that. I think if people really understood how channeling works or connection to spirit, how it really works, they would recognize that they've been doing it too. But because of the stigma that's attached to it or the way it's presented on television, people are so disconnected from their own ability to connect to spirit. So I tell people, like, thank God not everybody's a professional psychic medium. What a nightmare that would be. We need people,
oh gosh, could you
right? Like do other things, like be doctors and build bridges and like, thank God, but there doesn't mean they're not channeling things. It doesn't mean they're not like tapping into their intuition in those moments
and using their special gifts.
Exactly.
Especially there's a lot of everything you just listed that we need.
So. Right. And so it's like, anyway, who are your mentors? I'm curious.
I have studied with Pat Longo here on Long Island. I studied with Kim Russo.
Oh, nice. Okay, cool.
Yeah, my Reiki Master Teacher is Lorraine Austin. So I love her. I come to her as well. And she was like, when I first go into Reiki, there's that whole system. And then by the time you become a Reiki practitioner, she's like, go with the energy. Because I was doing it intuitively, like you were saying. I was like just doing it intuitively from day one. And I was like trying to stay within the system. It's like, oh, I got to do it this way. And she's like, no, you can do it this way. I also, Franz Stein, he's a well-known Reiki Master Teacher, world-renowned. And Marianne DeMarco.
Oh, nice. So you got like some powerhouse mentors. Good for you.
Yes, and I love all of them, and I'm grateful for everything they have ever taught me.
Yeah.
Amazing. I mean, I picked up a Sonia Choquette book when I was in high school, and it was like, oh, this makes sense to me. And then I started studying with Pat Longo, and she's like, you're psychic, and was like, oh, that answers a lot of questions. Yeah. It's like all the light bulbs are going off.
Yeah. Yeah. No, interesting. No, it's like, I think, I have a good friend. Her name is Jennifer Schaefer. She's one of my best friends. She's also a psychic medium. And we were having a conversation once about the work that we do and, working professionally and all the things. And she said something that I now share all the time because it's like really, really true. And she said, Cindy, our jobs as psychic mediums are done when nobody has to come see us anymore because everyone's having their own experience. Or their own experiences. And like, exactly, right? Like I hope that that's the case. I say that I'm like, great. You don't have, nobody has to come get a reading anymore. Great. Cause you're all making your own readings or doing your own thing, or you're remembering your own connection. And I really think it's important for people to know that we as mediums and healers and whatever, I don't even know if I like the word healer. It feels weird to me. We as beings who can feel different energies. I don't know.
Yeah, empath. Yeah, that learning that was an empath like also explained a lot.
Well, yeah, right. But it's like I feel like we all have it. We all have it. We all have it to a degree. A lot of us just forget. We don't remember that it's part of how we've come in.
Yep.
And so most of us spend our lives trying to remember who we are. Like, even if we're not conscious of that's what we're actually trying to do, a lot of us are trying to remember who we are, right? And I think one of the things really missing, and it's not everybody is missing this, but largely in Western culture, is remembering our connection to nature, because we are nature. We are water, we are earth, we are all the things. That has been really, really, we've lost that. A lot of people have lost that, not everybody. And I think right now, we all really need to start sitting in that space and like remembering that.
Yes, agreed.
Mm-hmm.
100%. And nature can be very calming and very grounding, and that remembering to go into nature.
Mm-hmm.
So that leads us to, how do you define peace? How do you personally define peace?
Oh, well, I think I would truly be at peace. And I'm saying would truly be at peace because I don't know if I've ever truly been completely at peace. Like with the mind running the show, the mind is a trap. It really is. It's always, going. For me, I think to truly be at peace would be to be detached from all of the stories and just to be present. But that's also a story I just am telling myself. So what do I know? This is what I mean. I'm like, what do I actually know? I don't know. But I'm serious to think about like how much story defines who we are. Like when we answer the question of who, when you say, who are you? Well, then I immediately go into my past and I start telling you a story about where I came from, what happened to me, when's my first experience. That's a story too. Like what happens if you get rid of all of that and you just are like, you don't have a story? That sounds peaceful.
Yeah, it does. And actually,
now, how to get there? Not sure. I got to go sit with some gurus. I don't know. Got to go somewhere and figure that one out. I don't know.
Oh my goodness. So, how do you find peace? What are some of the ways based on that definition, which is a profound definition and very poignant, and where we all kind of need to strive to be, how do you think you bring yourself to those moments? Because we all have some moments of peace.
Sure. I mean, let's see. Meditation. Really, if I really am in like a meditation where, that helps me a lot. I think also, again, being detached from story. Like, I think I'm at a point now where I can observe my thoughts. Now, I think this is important. When you can be an objective observer of your thoughts, that is really useful, because instead of just being in the thought or in the trigger or in the whatever story you're telling yourself, you're actually like able to look outside of it and say, wow, interesting. That's a funny story that I'm telling myself, or that's what that is, or whatever. It really can help me or people or in general look at things from a different perspective, and that's from the perspective of more compassion. Peace, okay, like now I'm going into this even more. It's like having compassion for myself has helped me find more peace, and that is, I think, really important for people to strive for. Compassion is it will change everything once people start having compassion for themselves and other people, because compassion and empathy are not the same thing. And it's not, I'm not always good at compassion, especially for myself, but like the more that I have, and then I show up for people in a different way. And I think the other part too is, I spent so many years, in the spirit world. Like my whole job is connecting to spirits. And I think that one of my other mentors, Paul Jacobs, he's from the UK. He has been, I think, the mentor I've studied the most with. He's a really, really great teacher, really hard teacher in a good way, really great at crushing ego. That's what he did for me. I'm forever grateful. I cried so much, but I needed it. Like I needed that. I'm so happy that I had him as my mentor, you know? But he said to me once, Cindy, if you're not careful, the spirit world will take everything from you. It'll take your friends. It'll take your marriage. It'll take your house. And I was like, what is this guy talking about? And he wasn't just saying it to me. He was saying it to other people, but too, it was like the class. But I was like, then I realized what he was saying. I was like, oh my God, that is so deep. And it's so right. Because when we are working in this space, it's very easy to be so in the spirit world that we are not paying attention to what's right in front of us and what is in our presence. And everything is in presence. So the spirit world can sweep you away into air. It can get you ungrounded. It can take you away from really like the moment, who's in front of you, your family, right? And everything is in presence. And when I started to also remember that and really dive into that, I realized that I don't have to go outside of myself to connect to spirit. I need to go inside of myself. When the connection starts going inward, it's all inside. Mm-hmm. That's peaceful. Like where do we think we're going? Where are we going?
That's always a great question. I mean, and it's very funny because I feel like I don't know where I'm going in a lot of directions, but often literally because I have no sense of direction. I was in ROTC for 4 years in high school. The only section of ROTC I ever failed was map reading. Mm-hmm. My sergeant looked at me and says, you're either going to lead the retreat or run us right into battle because I have no idea where we're going.
Right.
So what you just said makes complete sense.
But really, it's like, right? Like it's like, I don't know. I mean, these are just all ideas. I mean, and I will say, if I were to come on this podcast in 10 years, I'd probably be saying something different. I don't know. These are just things that I'm like sitting with right now. But it is a good question. We all think we're going somewhere. We're living life. I think Matthias De Stefano said something like this in one of his talks. We all think we're like living life like we're going somewhere. We're living our lives because we're going. Where are we actually going when we die? What does that mean? If you hear some like a Sufi master, so the story is this: I was talking to this woman who is a Sufi, and her Sufi master was a man named Bawa Mujahideen, who is from Sri Lanka. He came to the United States, I don't know, in the 60s or something. I don't exactly remember when he came. He's now on the other side, but he started like a center in Philadelphia, and he had a lot of followers, and he was dying. And, he was everyone's guru. He was their teacher, and he was dying, and everybody was like, hard, really hard. Right. So somebody asked him, well, where are you going when you die? Where are you going to go? And he said, I'm going inside of all of your hearts. And I was like, that's true. It's not cliche. It sounds kind of silly, but that's what I think it is. It's all, nothing is outside of us. All of the great teachers and teachings are saying the kingdom of heaven is within, everything is within. So when we stop trying to find everything outside of ourselves and we go inside and then we're in presence, I think that's where peace is, maybe.
I laugh because I understand what you're saying. It's a nervous laugh. I apologize. I'm
No, I mean, it's funny because we spend a lot of our time trying to figure out what's happening, where we're going, why we're here, even now, right? Instead of just being in it, instead of just like we want to know the answers. And it's like, maybe the peace comes from not having to know the answers.
Oh, I love that too. It's very true. It's like not knowing, and there is a piece to that. And sometimes it could bring people anxiety. So how do you feel you help others find peace?
I don't know. I mean, look, I got to really think about how I want to say this, because I guess maybe I would have said before, my job as a medium is to bring people peace, but that's actually not my job as a medium. It's not like, that's my job is to be present and hold space and in a moment. And then maybe there's this moment where with the other person that I'm sitting across from, where we co-create this I don't want to say magic, but you know what I mean? But it's like, it's not about me bringing anybody anything or do, like, everybody has their own way of showing up, right? It's like when you are sitting with your somebody that you love and they're having a hard time, your job is not to necessarily make them feel better. You can say whatever you're going to say, but it's still like to be compassionate. That's what it is. Like compassion. That's it. I think the Dalai Lama, what did he say? Compassion is the radicalism of our time.
Yeah.
So how do I bring people peace? By bringing myself peace. How can I bring peace for anybody else if I don't even know what it is for myself? And that is true. Like people say that, well, you can't know what love is until you love yourself. And it's just like, ugh, it's just like, I hate it. Like, but it's actually true,
It is the truth.
So, compassion, being kind, trying to be kind and compassionate at all times, right? Because I found that most people, including myself, what we want is to feel loved. We want to feel seen. We want people to not judge us. We want to be able to share our deepest pains, our deepest secrets, our fears, and just have somebody be like, it's okay. It's okay. So I think that's maybe a way to be something to strive for when you're sitting with somebody else.
And that is very true. It's so true. And it's hard sometimes because the ego likes to creep in.
Oh, well, the ego's, I mean, look, we all have it. It's like mine gets in there too. I'm like, wow, that was high ego. Welcome to the show. It's like, oh, and you can feel it, the energy of it. But the ego gets a bad rap. I mean, we need to have an ego to know that to have these experiences in this world of duality. Like, there's really no such thing as separation, and to have these experiences, to learn to go back to the oneness, the ego is part of that experience. It's like, I am Cindy, you are Janice. Well, okay. Yeah. And we're the same. But you know what I mean?
Yes, I really do. I really do. And it's sometimes we try and separate, but from what I'm hearing today, it might be a little bit more about integration. And we have to
totally
bring the ego into calm. I used to stick my ego in the corner. Now I just place it in a cocoon and make it take a nap.
Yeah. It's like that for healers. I think it's even like more, I don't know. I mean, like, let me ask you this. I'm curious, as a Reiki master, when you're working with somebody and you're doing energy healing, I would think, and I don't know, but I would think that it's even more so like you have to get really out of the way, like really out of the way.
Really out of the way. I have, Lorraine taught us this wonderful, like little pre-ceremony kind of ritual where we are asking our ego to step aside.
Mm-hmm.
We call in ascended masters, healing angels, anybody from the person's spirit team to come in. But the ego, my ego needs to go step aside. It can take a nap, it can take a break, go get coffee. I don't care what it does, but it can't be present when I'm healing because it will interfere, it will affect.
Mm-hmm.
And as somebody who's true to what I do, if I feel like I have an egoic thought coming in, it's like, nope, I will deal with that later. It's kind of like meditation. In people saying I can't meditate when my mind is racing, I totally respect that. But it's kind of leave the front door and the back door open. You let the thoughts go through, and as Franz says, you don't serve tea.
Yeah, right. That's meditation, right? Because it's not about not having any thoughts. It's about just not letting the thoughts run the show. It's about just being like, oh, hi, there's anger. How? Okay, I see you. It's like, that's like, because if meditation were about not having any thoughts, man, I would never be like, I am so ADHD. My brain is like on, I'm just like really like diagnosed, it's like, oh, wow, there's a lot going on in there, So yeah, like it's interesting with healing, right? And when I said I don't like the word healer, I don't mean to offend. It's more of like, because a lot of people use that word. I don't think you do, but a lot of people use that word and they don't acknowledge that they're just holding space for the person to heal themselves.
Thank you very much, because I don't take offense to that, because I have some, not trepidation, but it's like, I help, because when people will ask me, well, how do you heal? It's like, well, I'm not really doing much except for I'm moving around your energy where it needs to go, but it's for you. Your journey, your healing experience is going to be different than the guy who just walked in or just left 10 minutes ago.
Mm-hmm.
I'm just, it's like about your mind, body, and spirit. So it's just getting you into a nice, deep, relaxed space to help you discover what you need. Like you may come in and say, I don't know if I should go to this specialist or this doctor or this, that. And it's like, okay, let's calm you down. For me, it is calming someone down and getting them into that space and holding that space for them, kind of helping them where I need to. But there have been people who walk in and it's like, you told me maybe I should go see a doctor for such and such, and I did, and you know what? You were right. And it was just that it was a, I want to say a hunch. It was clearly spirit kind of giving them a nudge, and I don't know them most of the time when my clients come. They're there for a very one specific reason, and then leave kind of thinking, oh, maybe I should approach this differently.
Mm-hmm.
That.
Yeah, right. So it's like the person showing up for the session, their soul, even if unconsciously, there's a willingness there for the soul, like of the soul, for the healing to occur. Because if the willingness isn't there, then the healing is not going to occur. It doesn't matter if you have the most magical healer of all time. Like there has to be the willingness of the person's soul to want to be there, right? Like they know what they're doing. Their soul knows what they're doing, even if the person is unconscious of that, right? They might not even be conscious, but it's like, so that's what I meant. Yeah, but you get it. So yeah.
And I always tell people, I go, it's like my boyfriend is like, I'm not your guru, but we can talk, and that's how he holds space for people.
Exactly.
And I'm like, I'm not your doctor, but I'm willing to help.
Mm-hmm.
So, and I definitely take the ego out. It's like I just do my thing.
Mm-hmm.
It's very important to be humble, and there's that fine line for some people between being humble and like I got this. It's like I very humble. It's like I'm just going where I'm guided.
Mm-hmm.
I need to do. I'm being present for you.
Yeah, totally.
And then when I go to somebody for an energetic healing, I make sure that I get the vibe of you're just here for me. You're not like, oh, I'm this grandiose person. It's like,
Mm-hmm.
and that's very important.
I want to call out all the late female healers and whatever. Time to wake up, everyone. Like it's like,
Yes, it's needed. It is so needed, and especially with the planet in the array it is in, we need to come forth.
Mm-hmm.
Come forth.
Yeah.
So, and is there any other pearls of wisdom in your brain today that you would like to share regarding grief or peace or bringing peace to grieving?
I mean, I'm still learning it, right? I think it's been a really interesting few years with my brother passing, and my father is really unwell, and his wife is really unwell at the same time, and it's it's like I'm really, honestly, I know I've been like saying this over and over, just really trying to be present, because I think that for me is like healing, to just be able to meet somebody where they need to be met. Like, okay, for another example, actually going back to my brother, my brother was sick for some time with, he died from complications of type 2 diabetes. He's 48 years old when he died. And he really wasn't taking care of himself. Like he could have lived much longer had he taken better care of himself and followed the doctor's orders and stopped eating sugar and whatever, Okay. So a lot of people were really, really angry with my brother because he wasn't taking care of himself. And they were like very vocal about like their frustrations toward him and all the things. And there was a time where I was too, because I was like, so mad. I was like, you're going to leave me here, you asshole. Excuse my language, but you know what I mean? I was like, you're going to leave. Like, what is wrong with you? I was like, so it was all about me. You know what I mean? At that moment, in that moment. And I was in a meditation, and I was shown like all of my brother's trauma and his pain and his sorrow. And then I was like, wow, I have so much compassion for my brother, like right now. Like, and And after that, everything changed, and how I started showing up for him, because although it was true, like he could have done things differently, I also knew that there's a part of him that didn't know how. I knew there was a part of him that was suffering, and that was just like, and he was at that time, starting dialysis, and I made the decision. I said, you know what? I'm done yelling at my brother, telling him how he should do this, or why are you doing this, or whatever. And I just was like, I'm just going to show up with him and love him and not judge him. And that was really powerful, because it's really easy for people to go into the story of like, this person is this person should be alive longer. This person should do this for me or for the family. And look, I get all of it because I've seen it all. And there's a point of like where compassion and love can really, it can be healing for people if you can just hold space for them, to kind of know that you're not judging them where they are. And then maybe their soul's like, okay, I feel like a little bit of compassion or love, and maybe that sparks something. Maybe it doesn't, but you know what I'm saying? And to be able to sit with him at the end. And I've said this on another podcast where he was like, it's not funny, but in hindsight, it's kind of funny. He had to go in comfort care because he was going to die. He had this infection all in his body and his heart. He couldn't have open heart surgery and whatever. So when you're in comfort care, you can eat whatever you want. Like, they're like, okay, well, you're going to die, so what do you want to eat? And he's like, I want 2 chocolate ice creams. I'm like, oh my God. It's like,
wait a second.
But I was like, of course, like, yeah, you want 2 chocolate ice creams? He's like, I want some lemon sorbet. I was like, you got it. He was like, I want a quarter pounder and some fries. I was like, you got it, and I was just like, what am I going to do? Say no? Like, you can't have sugar, like for your last meal, you know what I mean? And so it's just like acceptance, and accepting people for who they are and where they are. And like knowing that most things aren't personal. Like, it's not personal. Yeah. That's really hard to remember. And that's what I want to leave people with. Like, how people respond to you or how people treat you, it can hurt. It can be sad to watch things happening, but it's not personal. It's not personal, because people don't respond a certain way unless they're in pain. Or they don't, to always just kind of try to find that peace, because that brings you a lot more to compassion, faster towards compassion than if you think it's a personal attack against you.
Right. It's like, that's one of the 4 agreements, right?
Mm. I don't remember. I read the book a long time ago.
That is, I just actually recently read it. It was on my reading list for quite some time. And since getting my master's, and even before then, I've had a really hard time reading fiction. And so I've been reading a lot of self-help and self-improvement books, and this book has been on my radar for a while. I've heard nothing but great things. I read this book, and I honestly can say it's the first self-help book to ever bring me to tears. Mm-hmm. And one of the 4 agreements is, it's don't take it personally.
Yeah, because it's really not.
It's so hard.
And the thing is, it's like, it's so easy to go into that story of taking it personally, because that makes, like, if I take something personally, then I'm the victim and they're the perpetrator, and then we're separate, and then I'm blaming them, instead of actually trying to look at, wait, okay, what actually is going on here, and why is that happening that way? And it's usually because somebody's in pain, and so
exactly.
Yeah.
And I love that is what we are leaving with, is it's not personal, and compassion. It's like, be compassionate.
Compassion for yourselves first, though. That's what I have to tell myself every day. Like, really, can I have compassion for myself today? That's the beginning. That's the start.
And that is a beautiful start.
Thanks for having me. Thanks for letting me go on all my, like, I don't know, deep, heady tangents of really that I don't know anything, and then coming back to some of the things of, like, I don't know. So I appreciate it. Yeah.
Thank you. And we're going to put Cindy in the green room. I will be right back. Thank you guys so much for joining us. This was a wonderful conversation today. And I hope that it has helped you as much as it has helped me, and I will see you next week.